started. You're probably going to get a little window, gang. So I know that there were some parties and things preventing people that wanted to join us to join. So really, really grateful that you made the effort to be here with us in person. And for me, it's always really a joy to have a gathering of yoga teachers, or I'm not sure, are all of you already teaching yoga? Some of you maybe still, yeah, like, so there's something so special because already we're a group of people who have service oriented mind and heart. We're really dedicated, even if it's just a small part of your life, to helping others find happiness in life. And the inspiration, of course, behind this webinar is to teach you a little bit about essential oils, a tool I'm going to speak on your behalf just for a second, Amy, that I know Amy and I have discovered in our teaching that has facilitated a greater depth and really like a tangible tool that has helped both of us to give even more to our students and our communities. And that's why we invited you to be here with us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Molly Kaufman. Right now I'm in Chicago. I'm based in Italy, but I host retreats right now and teacher trainings all over the world. I'm teaching for a friend of mine in Chicago. I'm a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine. I've been teaching yoga for about 15 years, but engaged in the practice of yoga for probably more than 25. And I'm very, very passionate about things that bring us closer to nature and things that help to guide us toward facilitating better for others and our community. Ames?
So some of you know me, some of you don't. So I am based in London, and I've been teaching for about 10 years. And Molly and I think we've known each other for how long? Probably about 8 years now.
Yeah,
Maybe
almost that whole
longer,
time.
actually. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My first teacher training was with you. Yeah. So yeah, it's an honor to be able to partner with beautiful Molly and bring her to my community also. And I have been using essential oils since the start, actually. It's something I've been really drawn to. My sense of smell is actually, thinking about why the other day, and my sense of smell is very, very, very sensitive. And so when I found essential oils, I was really drawn to it, I think, because of that. But bringing it into the class, it was just another layer that could bring a little bit of magic. And over the years, I have used it in many different ways. And over the last, I would say, probably 5 years ago, I started using more therapeutical oils and bringing them into my private sessions, especially, and my group classes. It's just given me an extra layer of support that has been really, really fulfilling and beneficial. Like the feedback that I have from my students is amazing. So I'm really excited to share this with you all. And obviously, like, I have a community of yoga teachers that to share this with you. So I'm just really, really excited because we all are in the same field and supporting our students in different ways. And this is just another tool for us to use that's really magical. And as Molly said, it connects us to nature, which is really, really beautiful.
Amazing. So it's always a joy to collaborate with you, Amy. It makes me so happy that our lives are so entwined. So gang, I'm gonna screen share here. I'm gonna tell you that I am not the most technological person, so hopefully I get it right the first time. If questions come up during the presentation, I'm going to ask you to just type them in the chat. And while we might not address them right when you type them, we're going to try to leave a little bit of space at the end of the presentation so that we can also field questions. And for those of you who might be watching the recording or maybe even re-watching, please know that Amy and I are here to be reached out to, also via email, text, however it is that you're connected with us, to answer your questions and to guide you in any way. So we are a bunch of yoga teachers, amazing, here to learn a little bit about how essential oils might become part of your tapestry of tools. So the place I want to start is that I feel like in the modern day and age, even with yoga, we're definitely grappling with a very multi-dimensional vehicle. Many of you know, and we're not going to get into the politics of it. Of course, this isn't the time or place, but so many different conversations around how yoga is being presented and shared today, where it comes from, its origins, what is yoga, what isn't yoga. And we actually find a really similar conversation around essential oils. Essential oils have become wildly popular in the last decade, but they, like yoga, are actually thousands of years old. And so a lot of the conversations that I have with people, and Ames, I'm not sure if you've had this experience too, but I have definitely encountered a great number of people who are sort of wanting me to prove the worth of essential oils before they're willing to have a conversation about them. Of course, as yoga teachers, what we're going to present to you today is like how you can just engage people in the experience of them, out of the mind into the heart and visceral experience, which is what we do naturally as yoga teachers anyway. But it's really nice to know, I think, right from the get-go, that essential oils are actually some of the oldest documented medicinal substances that exist. So for probably centuries and millennia, cultures, I'm not going to read everything on this slide because it's not even so important, but our job isn't really here to prove that essential oils are worthwhile, because to me also, I get this a lot in traditional Chinese medicine with acupuncture, the fact that they are still useful thousands of years after they came into the spectrum of humanity, let's say, is all the proof that I need that they are valuable. What our job is, what our role is to somehow find the way to make them relevant to modern life. And you can give me a hands up if you feel this as a yoga instructor, like you're really dedicated to sharing the purity of yoga, but you also want to speak a language that your modern students are going to understand. Anyone kind of grappling in that area? Yeah, right. Like we all want to represent the antiquity and the purity, and we're working together to find the right language to make it relevant and also relatable in a modern world. And the same is true for the essential oils, which is also part of why they're so fun to add into our spectrum of things as yoga teachers. So I feel like probably most of you on the call are familiar with an essential oil. Anyone has never touched an essential oil on the call? Anyone? Like somehow we all know a little something about essential oils, but it's good to go back to the basics. So in an essential oil presentation, it's impossible not to say the word essential or essence a million times. I've been working on it for a few years now, and I'm still not being able to succeed at this. So if anyone after this webinar has some idea about how to give a presentation on essential oil without saying essential millions of times, I'm all ears. But what essential really speaks to is a foundation, right? A purity, the essence of something. And in fact, all plants in nature have a very unique chemical fingerprint. And chemical is a little trigger word too, because what we're trying to do right now in our modern lives is detoxify all of the synthetic chemical influences. But if any of you made it through chemistry or organic chemistry in school, you know that chemistry in the organic sense is one of the very foundations of life. And so every plant in nature has a unique chemical fingerprint, and an essential oil is that unique fingerprint extracted in its entirety in a form that is potent and usable as plant medicine or as an energetic influence. And of course, it's this unique fingerprint that gives a plant its unique medicinal and energetic properties. And I always like to say this isn't really meant to be a scientific class, and we do have a lot to get through. So Amy, get the cane out and like pull me off the stage if I go down too many rabbit holes here. Gonna do my best because I get really excited about this stuff. But that unique fingerprint, right, is also carrying. Every single plant has a nervous system. Every single plant is capable to defend itself, has an immune system. And so we know as yoga teachers, right, this idea of returning to true nature, returning to the resonance of natural law, what better tool than the essence of that very fingerprint of intelligence to help draw us even into a conversation about what natural law or universal consciousness might be. And I know that's sort of like deep and esoteric, but we're going to parse it out as we go through. So essential oils are the essence of the plant. Now, it is really important to say that an essential oil is a very potent extraction of this fingerprint. So for example, 1 drop of peppermint essential oil, pure peppermint essential oil, is equal to like 20, they say 26 to 27 cups of strong peppermint tea. So we're not only getting the essence of the energetic tapestry of plant intelligence, but we're getting it in a really potent form. And this is another gift I think the essential oils give us, is like less is more, right? Drawing us back to simplicity. So what are some of the ways that we use essential oils? Most of us are familiar at least with one of these, if not all. Internal use is sometimes the most surprising to people, but I'll tell you about that also in the next slide. So we can use essential oils topically. I saw Charlotte just as we were starting, right, this webinar. She was giving some like good love. It's exactly what I did with my Breathe oil, because as I told you, after however many decades of teaching, I still kind of get nervous before I present things, which is funny, but the essential oil actually assists me energetically to stay grounded, to stay calm, and to stay with my breath, which is one of the ways that, of course, we can use them for ourselves and then also gift that to our students. So we can use them topically on the skin. We can use them aromatically. Most of us are most familiar with this, like diffusers, right? Who hasn't encountered a diffuser? Or if you've already been working with essential oil, you know also that just opening the bottle and smelling. And here in the aromatherapy part of these sort of 3 major uses of essential oils, it's nice to note from the previous slide that some plants have what we call aromatic, like volatile compounds. And what a volatile compound means is that when it connects with air, it evaporates really quickly. And this is why essential oils can be so powerful in a multi-dimensional way, because obviously they are a physical, tangible thing. And as yoga teachers, right, I don't know if the same for you, but like every time I encounter something that's like physical, but also starts to get into the subtle and non-tangible, I get super excited. Anyone else? Like, yeah, this is the stuff of life. Yeah, like how are we going to cross these barriers? So we're going to see how in a second, but most of the plants that we get essential oils from are high in these volatile compounds, which is what allows us to use them in these aromatic ways. And the last way is internal use. This could be surprising. Not all plants, not all essential oils are intended for internal use, but just as you could eat many plants that you encounter if you were trying to survive in the forest or the woods, pure essential oils can be ingested for particular things. Now, as yoga teachers, we know we always want to be careful between the boundary of holding our community as a yoga teacher and becoming people's therapists, unless you are a therapist, right? So when we get into internal use, this is a slightly different way of interacting with the essential oils and also potentially sharing them. But the really super important thing here is that you want to make sure your essential oils are 100% pure. And I don't say this to be scary or to be like, bah humbug about the world today, but about 90% of the essential oils on all major markets are in part synthetic. And so we have to be really careful, just as who we're learning our yoga from, what books we're reading to study, right? It all kind of comes full circle. We want to be really, really careful about who we're partnering with and the sourcing of the oils. So many of you might know that Amy and I partner with a company called doTERRA, doTERRA meaning from the earth. And there are probably millions of reasons that we have chosen to partner with this company, but I just want to highlight a few so we can get into the yoga teacher part of this. But this is actually really part of it, because yoga means unity. And how many of you in the modern world, in your modern life, feel like it's a struggle to make decisions and take actions that are really, truly unified with the morals and ethics that you want to follow? Anyone can relate to that? Like, what products you buy, right? What communities you participate in sometimes. But I see a few people shaking their heads. And so one of the many gifts doTERRA gives us is that so far in my years with the company, and I know that Amy is discovering this more and more, everything about the company is in line with integrity, really is a representative of yoga, of unification, from the purity of their oils. So the most pure oils on the market, transparency with where they're sourcing, and also a ton of research, which Amy is going to talk a little bit about later. doTERRA also does what's called co-impact sourcing. So they are eliminating the middleman from sourcing of essential oils, going right into the communities. A lot of essential oils come from developing countries, and those farmers are really, really having a difficult time making a living because there are middlemen who are taking all of the money. So part of doTERRA's mission is to get right to the farmer, form a relationship with them, because they know the land. They know how to farm in a sustainable way. So sustainability as well. And by doing that, doTERRA is also supporting the betterment of many communities in developing countries all over the world. And then, of course, they have the Healing Hands Foundation. Some of you that know me know that I just completed my first Healing Hands project in Nepal, a service project in Nepal. So doTERRA is supporting its wellness advocates in also creating service projects around the world and offering matching grants for those. So it's just an amazing company. But the one thing, can you see my cursor, that I want you to pay attention to really primarily is purity, right? Because if we're talking about using a tool that's going to guide us a little closer energetically to what we're striving for in our yoga practice, but we are interacting with something synthetic, then it's not going to work. And so the purity of doTERRA is really what guides us. And Ames, if you want to just jump in here, please. I'm like a freight train sometimes because I get excited.
Yeah, I wanted to say the reason that it's doTERRA for me is I've used many different oils over the years. And when I found doTERRA and I really did my research into it, it's like I, as much as possible, want to be working with companies that are ethical and products that are really going to be beneficial, right? So if I'm taking an oil in that is synthetic, not only is it not beneficial, it's actually detrimental on the brain, which I find really, it just blew my mind when I found that out, that, synthetic perfumes are bad for neuro health. And that's something that I'm really interested in within the yoga practice, is the study around the brain and how the yoga practice can really help us to strengthen our brain health, and how the oils can help us with that, and give real tangible effects, like, you know, coming out of a one-to-one session with me. Not only are you more grounded in your body because of the movement and the breathing, it's like you're more connected because of the oils that I've given you, and you feel like you're in a kind of like magical uh you know, environment, and the effects are really, really tangible. So yeah, that is why it's doTERRA for me, because I know that it is pure, and the oils work.
Mhm. Thanks, Ames. Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely for a different conversation, but if if you enter into this spectrum with Amy and I, one of the missions of doTERRA, of course, is education, right? So making sure that you're not only getting the purest essential oils, but you are really learning about the full spectrum of what that means to have something pure in your hands. And of course, a lot of the synthetic stuff, the like Glade plug-in kind of stuff, there's more and more research building that shows that this is endocrine interrupting, which means that it's affecting your hormonal system. So since we're primarily women on the call, right, we know how delicate that is. Research about how it affects the kidneys, the liver, right, these the parts of your body that have to filter toxic stuff. So a lot of depth to that, and for a different conversation for sure. But I appreciate that you brought that in. And actually, this is the direction we're going now. So how do essential oils affect us? So as Amy was saying, when you interact with a pure essential oil, there's no doubt that something has happened, and maybe like a raise of hand or a wiggle of fingers. I know some of you already do have a few of the doTERRA oils in your hands, right? Like if you did what I did earlier and you open a bottle and you take a whiff, you feel it in every cell of your body. You might not know like what it's doing. You might not even be able to identify in words what that sensation is, but something happens in such a total way instantaneously. And this is because when we are smelling an essential oil, it is being processed in a part of the brain, an area of the brain called the limbic system. The limbic system is actually a couple of different brain structures. But what starts to get really interesting for us as yoga teachers is that these structures together have an effect on the hormonal system. They have an effect on heart rate. They have an effect on respiration. They have an effect on memory. They have an effect on emotional processing in a lot of different layers. And so what could that possibly mean for us as yoga teachers? Well, most of you, I assume, have studied the koshas. Yeah. And if you haven't, get in touch with Amy and I, and we're going to teach you all about them, because this is my favorite part of yoga philosophy. I feel like you can explain almost everything in life through the kosha system. I don't know if you feel that way too, Amy, but if you think about what I just described as our interaction with an essential oil, and this is just smelling the essential oil, what we've tapped into in some way is like the first 3, maybe 4, maybe even 5 koshas instantaneously. And what is our yoga practice, or actually the spectrum of yoga practices, all about? It is about bringing unity, a unifying energy, to all of these different layers of our perceivable existence, whether you look at it from the nadis, whether you look at it from the koshas, whether you look at it from the physical energetic body, right? But if you think about the limbic system and all that it has the possibility to affect, and then you just bring your brain into our yogic realm and you think physical, okay, physical, yes, heart rate, all of this stuff, breath level, pranamaya kosha, it affects respiration, memory level. This is also Manamaya Kosha, is also the layer of emotions, right? So instantaneously, if chosen wisely, an essential oil can bring an energetic message of unity to all of these layers immediately. And that's kind of what you're feeling when you interact with an essential oil. So you can imagine how powerful a tool that can be when you're also sharing time and space with students, but also for our own explorations and our own practices. Um, what did I take? Breathe, air, fem, breathe. I'll try to, if I see the chat, I'm not so good at like chats and, but yeah, my two favorite for social presentation, this is just me, are breathe and adaptive, but we'll talk about those later. But breathe for me is my all around favorite. And this is totally unrelated, but I've been traveling a lot lately, too much, and I'm sleeping in different beds every few nights. And so I'm struggling a little bit to sleep. I'm waking up sometimes feeling a little unballasted. And usually I would use more like a foundational rooting sandalwood vetiver, something kind of grounding, but I've been reaching for my breathe and it's been working incredibly. I put the breathe on in the middle of the night on my chest to help harmonize the heart rate and the respiration. I put my hands over my low belly and I go into Samavriti pranayama, into just like equal inhale and exhale. And it is magic. It's really helping me a lot. But the spectrum of essential oils we can use for different things is infinite. So let's continue on this journey. So let's get into—
Can I just say one thing about the breathe is you have been using that a lot with my private clients, not only because it grounds them when they come into the practice, but also because a lot of them have like at the coming on of a cold, and I just get them to rub that on their chest in the season that we're in now, and it's they feel like they're getting a little therapeutical like treat as soon as they step in the room.
Yeah. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I don't think we're even going to talk about this one specifically. So it's so funny that it's coming up. I mean, this is the beauty, right, of just interacting with the moment. So breathe is a blend that doTERRA makes. It's not just one essential oil. It's a few. It's our sort of minty eucalyptus, mint, ravensthara, tea tree. So some purifying and really to open the mechanism of the lung. And interestingly, along those lines, Amy, in traditional Chinese medicine, the lung is actually one of the first organs of the immune system, is kind of the foundational organ of the immune system. And then, of course, from our yogic explorations, we know that the mind follows the breath. So when someone is feeling, anxious, depressed, if we can regulate the breath, then we're able to centralize everything. And as you say, in this kind of wintry, if all of us are in North America in this wintry season, it can also be super supportive of keeping that whole lung and respiratory mechanism open and functioning healthfully. So it's a super cool oil. I love it. I haven't met someone so far that has, we have preferences, we have differences because biochemically we're each really different. So some oils, my sister loves patchouli. Patchouli makes me want to vomit. I don't know why. I know it's like a very spiritual oil. I can't stand it, but I haven't met someone yet who doesn't love breathe. So maybe that should go on everyone's list. But let's get into the practical a little bit. So as teachers, how can we use those? Well, since we're all teachers, we know how important our personal practice is to everything, right? We teach from what we know. We teach from our visceral experience of the wisdom that our teachers hand down for us, to us, that we're receiving from them. And so obviously, if you're going to integrate a new tool into your teaching, it should really start close to home, which is with ourselves. And I think Amy has already described a couple of instances where she's using it on her private clients, sort of a similar spectrum there, right? I use breathe a lot before I practice. And I also experiment a lot with the energetics of the oils in my personal practice, from meditation to pranayama to the physical practice, also just to feel really the energetics and what they do. And then as my knowledge has grown, I'm better able to choose oils that really support what it is that I'm wanting to create or foster with my personal practice. The other thing here, and we'll see this again in just a moment, is that, you know, ritual is something that I think we're all kind of reaching back and back and back to. How many of you on the call, even as a teacher, have fallen away from your personal practice ever? Anyone? I feel like all of us should raise our hands because we're human. Things get in the way, right? There are times, whether you're traveling or whatever on holiday, and you're like, oh, I'm just not going to do anything for however long. So, for me, the essential oils bring an element of keeping ritual in. And what's super cool is if you think back to the limbic system, and one of the aspects of the limbic system is memory and emotion. One layer, and this is getting a little deep for this introductory webinar, I do realize, but one kind of cool thing is that if you use an essential oil during a practice, there becomes a visceral relationship, almost like Pavlov's dog in a way. I'm sorry to use such a funny example, but it's one that I think we all can kind of connect into, right? So that aroma becomes part of the memory of the experience of your practice. And when you go on holiday, maybe you don't have time to do an hour physical practice, but maybe you do have time to get your breathe bottle out and just sit and take 15 deep breaths before your day starts. And because we know that all of the koshas are integrated and that information is being shared into the physical body, into the mind layer, all over, it actually becomes a deep and powerful tool for keeping the ritual of our practice, even if we can't engage in the ways that we're used to. Does that make sense to everyone? I think this is like one of the most super cool things about the oils, really ever. And then, you know, eventually you can extrapolate that toward your students and bringing yoga off the mat, which is one of the things that I believe we're all really striving to help people to do too, not just the addiction to being in the studio and like, you know, getting the like dose of whatever, but really bringing the yogic wisdom into life. And essential oils can be a powerful ritual tool in returning us again and again to the practice in all realms of life. So back to the practical really quickly. Environment, ambiance, we can diffuse, we can, you know, create if we decide that we are entering into winter and we want to help people quiet down. Maybe we're diffusing an essential oil or a blend of oils that's really helping to create that ambiance energetically before we say or do anything to lead our students into that. Maybe as we're entering into summer, you want to get a little more joyful, you want to get into some of the like brightening and energizing things. You can use the oils also to just energetically set the environment to support you in whatever it is that you're wanting to deliver to your students or community. Then, of course, we can start getting a little bit more fine-tuned in our themed practices and our workshops, and we can really get deep into the investigation of how the essential oils can support all the different messages that we would love to offer to our students. And then, as I said, the, you know, sort of the last link is we want to bring yoga to life in life, right? We who on the call does not wish to help people understand that yoga is a way of life? Anyone? Okay, great. No hands up. Perfect. So they become, as I was describing, really, really beautiful tools to make that liaison between a dedicated practice and then how we can bring the essence of that into all aspects of life. So here, this, we're going to kind of move through this quickly also because I want to be conscientious of time. And I know that Amy has a lot of stories. I have a lot of stories. And in a group like this, where we're already sort of in a shared knowledge base, it's kind of fun just to talk as human beings than to necessarily like look at the presentation. You know, here's a list of some of the oils that I've used a lot in my personal practice. Now, all of our personal practices are different. All of us are different. I have like 85 essential oils, I think, in my collection right now, and I'm experimenting with them all. So this is just sort of a list of some of the common ones. It's not a list to be followed. It's just maybe even a starter place. Breathe, we've already talked about a little bit. Sandalwood, while it is one of the more expensive oils, and expensive by way of sustainable harvesting and it being a very sacred wood that we want to be careful not to harvest too much, that we're not having access to being able to harvest it. Sandalwood, I mean, you've probably like heard of this in spiritual practices, but one of the oldest medicines and plant essences to be part of spiritual practices. And what's kind of cool with sandalwood is it's one of the only oils that resonates with all of the major chakras. So we'll see this a little bit in the themed classes. You can start to match oils to, you know, chakras, to so many different things. Sandalwood is a super special one because it really sort of makes that connection, right, between Muladhara and Sahasrara and resonating all the way up, which of course is why it has been around in spiritual practices for so long. Frankincense is another one that's quite similar to that. So we can really look to history to see and understand. And then as you get to know the oils, you start to see, oh, okay, so now I know why, you know, why these things are still burned in churches and synagogues and everything, because energetically, before life of technology and studies and everything else, it was already known that these facilitate the journey beyond the physical, which is kind of cool. Lavender, we're going to talk about. Peppermint, wild orange, I just mentioned. Frankincense. But again, the importance here is that we do our physical and not physical, sorry, we do our personal practice. If that happens to be physical, that's great. It doesn't have to be. A lot of times I play my guitar now for my practice. Love it. It's kind of physical, I guess, but anyway, that's an aside. So many different versions of supporting our own spiritual and practice and yogic investigation growth so that we can, through the enhancement of having these tools, have so much more to offer our students. Environment and ambiance. Again, I'm just going to kind of float through this because I feel now that I'm seeing these slides, I feel like I already kind of said it all in that original slide. But here it's nice to mention also, because we are still sort of like loosely pandemic-ish. Most of us are heading into winter. So I don't know about you. I taught a class in Chicago yesterday, and 3 of my friends called me in the morning. They were like, I'm so sorry, I have COVID, so I can't come. I don't know if you're experiencing this in England again right now, but you know, the winter months are these kind of icky, coldy flu months. So doTERRA makes a blend called On Guard, which is our big immune boosting blend. This is an amazing one to diffuse, whether you're doing a private or you have a studio or you're teaching. And in this way, you're actually supporting everyone's immune system, but On Guard also has been shown to actually get rid of microbes in the air and also in the body. So you are sort of providing a tapestry of environmental support for the practice and also supporting people's immune system and cleanliness of the air. Breathe can be another wonderful one. Tea tree is another big, powerful antimicrobial. So diffusing that in the studio environment is amazing. Maybe having it in the shower. I don't even know if studios still have showers. Do studios still have showers? Like, is that hygienically post-pandemic? I know so many things have changed, but you know, we can think again energetically supporting what it is that we want to teach through just creating the ambiance of diffusing. But we can also be really clever in telling people that we're actually doing something that is purifying the air so that they feel more at ease when they come into a group practice during the winter months, for example. And, you know, sky is the limit here. And then the last part here is themed classes and workshops. And I'm sure over time, Amy and I are going to tackle these one by one in separate webinars. I can see us having a lot of fun here. I've done a couple of these also, so you can reach out if you'd like recordings of anything. But here again, the oils, because of their powerful, energetic method of supporting, enhancing, and also helping us to create certain energetics, are super amazing tools to use in themed classes, whether it's the chakras or the koshas or the elements. And I'll just show you again, it's like a little bit like above and beyond, but these are little sample bottles. They're 2 milliliter sample bottles. So when I teach themed classes or workshops, I often gift all of the students registered with little samples of the essential oils. So they're getting to interact with them and they're getting to take them home as a memory, or I'm losing the recuerdo. Why is it coming to me in Spanish? I have no idea. But anyway, as a remembering, what would be the English word? Oh my God. Anyone? Okay, as a memory of what you taught in class. Which I think is really cool. And I will say, I will say here, I don't know if anyone has heard of Animal Flow. I'm an Animal Flow instructor. It's a really cool like movement style that this guy created. It's all quadrupedal. But I taught an Animal Flow workshop in Miami a few years ago, and there wasn't anything like overtly spiritual. We know that movement inherently is spiritual, but like the workshop I was teaching was not so spiritual. The teachings, it was really more about like getting into Anamaya Kosha, getting into the body and figuring out how the body moves. But I still brought sandalwood, and I can't remember the other one. I think I gave also samples of deep blue, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Just to bring people like into their body, which is totally valid. How many of you have encountered students who just like are not even aware of their body? And that's, like, that's why we start there in Hatha Yoga, right? Like, let's get into the vessel and then let's proceed in all the other directions. So again, this is huge topic, but just to sort of get your mind and your heart oriented around all of the immense possibilities of bringing the tool of essential oil in. So how can we empower our students? So I already mentioned, and I'm going to do this fast, and then I'm going to pass the baton to you, Amy, that, we want to be really careful. If you are a therapist, that's a different thing. But I think, like I'm technically a therapist, a doctor, whatever, but I still think it's quite important to keep things separate. When I'm teaching, I am not in the role of therapist. If someone makes an appointment with me from a class to receive therapy, that's a different type of relationship. You know what I mean? So we want to kind of be clean. But one of the things, and Aim's going to tell you a few stories about this, that is so cool about the essential oils is that you don't have to be a therapist to be able to educate people with these very user-friendly tools that brings so much depth and facilitation to their journey without you necessarily entering into a therapeutic relationship with them. And we'll give you a few examples. I already talked about like samples and using in class. Yesterday I taught, and at the beginning of every class I teach, actually, I usually have 3, sometimes 4 essential oils, and I just invite people up and I put a drop or 2 of whatever it is that they want in their hand. That's if I'm teaching a general class that doesn't have a particular theme. So I'm just kind of like living out loud with my oils and inviting people to interact with them in everywhere and every chance I get. We don't really have to talk so much about this. You can kind of see education, I just want to point out, is the most important factor. And as I've alluded to, I feel like in so many different ways, as with teaching yoga, always work within the spectrum of what you know until you know more, and then expand. And that expansion, as we know, is absolutely infinite. So in the beginning, incorporating the essential oils can feel, and I think Amy also kind of went through this, even though we've both been using essential oils for so long. When you start finally get your hands on pure essential oils, you're like, oh, do I know enough to do what I'm supposed to do with these? Well, it's the exact same as our yoga teaching journey, right? You practice, you viscerally integrate the knowledge, you share. You practice, you learn, you viscerally integrate the knowledge, and then you share. And it's the exact same with the essential oils. And what's really cool about getting involved with us and doTERRA is that depending on who it is that helps you set your account up with doTERRA, you have them then as your personal guide forever. So that is also a really neat part of our network and our community, is that education is really the foundation, and connection and assistance and support. Take it away.
All right. So I'm going to talk about three of my favorite oils to use in my teaching. Obviously, it's like hard to choose three because there's so many of them that I just absolutely love. So the first one, if we go back to lavender,
Oh,
Molly.
sorry. How do I go? So this is where I get a little tripped up.
Okay, well, I'll just talk about it. So lavender is actually one of my favorite oils. And because there's actually been a lot of research that's been done around lavender oil, and it's been shown to be neuroprotective due to the antioxidants that it carries. And it's also shown to enhance dopamine receptors. So it means that it helps us to stay focused. And it's amazing for ADHD, for focus and memory. And also, it has been proven to help with anxiety and depression, and it helps to you go onto the third one, and it also helps to tone and balance. Yeah,
You keep
it also
talking, I'm just
helps.
gonna redo. I'm sorry. You keep
Okay.
talking. Sorry about
Yeah, it also helps to tone and balance the nervous system. So all of these things lend it really nicely to the practice and to supporting our students and to supporting ourselves. Like as Molly said, it's really important that we embody the practices first and foremost, and we embody the things that we're teaching. And so using it in your own practice, using it in your day-to-day, like when I come and sit down at the computer to work, I'm diffusing lavender with a few different things. And if I'm feeling like I'm unfocused, I'll go to lavender for that. So yeah, in practical terms in the classroom, it can help to create clarity in the mind. It helps to settle the students as they come in the room. So quite often I'll just have a bottle of lavender at the front, and I'll invite people to come up, like Molly was saying, to grab a drop to support the practice. And quite often with my privates, who a lot of them are corporate, they'll come in like little broken birds, a lot of them. And or they all work in like a finance company, and their nervous system is like on like the top level of on edge. And a lot of the time I'll say to them, like, how do you feel in your body? And they'll be like, I actually don't know. And that is like, okay, let's give you some lavender. And first of all, it just gets them to like feel into the palms of the hands, to connect to the breath. And neurologically, they're being supported. And with the nervous system, they're being supported. I've also got a private client that I used this with the other day. I go to her house. It's like one of my latest clients. I never take on anyone at this hour, but I go and teach her at 9 o'clock at night. And so it's 9 till 10. And she has 3 beautiful little girls that will come in and practice with us for like maybe half of the practice sometimes. And so the other night, 2 of the girls came in and they were like practicing, and they love the oils. They're just like all about the oils. And they're like, can we just do Shavasana now? And we can have the oils. And so they had to go to bed. So their dad came in and said, send Hazel up at this time and send Charlotte up at this time. And they were like so upset that they had to go to bed. And so I sat them down and I got the lavender out and I said, I'm going to put some lavender on the base of your feet. So it'll help you to sleep well. And so I put the lavender on the base of the feet, feeling super safe that I could use that on the kids. And of course, asking permission of the parents and the kids, can I put this on the soles of your feet? That's something that I think is really important to say, is like, you know, it's always asking for consent when we're using the oils, as with assists. But they were so excited to go to bed and sleep better, and you know, they're interacting with the oils. So it's a beautiful oil. It's a good one to get started with if you haven't started with the oils yet, but lavender all the way. Do you have anything to add with that, Miles?
Um, sure. I'll just add really quickly because I just want to give you the time and space. But one of the things that so as a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine, we're obviously also looking at everything we interact through energetics, and lavender is an oil that we would call an oil that relates to the liver system in traditional Chinese medicine. So not actually the liver as we know it in Western medicine, but the liver in traditional Chinese medicine is responsible for the free flow of energy throughout the body. And so it's sort of an interesting aspect about lavender. I don't know how many of you on the call, but I know even maybe me mentally, I always thought of lavender as sort of a sedative or like it's like something that would kind of settle down energy. But actually, when you look at it through the energetics of traditional Chinese medicine, it is bringing us into that sense of comfort and ease because it's helping the energy of the body to circulate. And that somehow really freed me up to use it more liberally and generously also with people because I don't always feel like, okay, I want to help people like to settle down, but somehow with the lavender, even with going to sleep with the kids, right, as Amy said, so super safe and so universal. But that idea of like it's facilitating the healthy flow of energy through the body that's allowing us to follow the natural circadian rhythm or whatever that is, was a really exciting discovery for me. And I often use it that way in my classes and teaching with that sort of piece of education for people. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is Deep Blue. Oh, yeah. So Deep Blue, again, another one of my favorites. This is an amazing oil. And the scent is kind of like mentholy, but it's really warming. And it's got the blue chamomile in there, which is really calming for the nervous system. You know, we have chamomile tea, but also the oil is amazing and very powerful in terms of calming and balancing. In my classes, I use a cream called China Gel, which is like very Jivamukti. If you've been to one of my classes, you'll know the China Gel, and everyone like loves the China Gel. However, China Gel is not recommended to use on pregnant women or children. And Deep Blue is safe for pregnancy. It's also safe for breastfeeding. And so I have some pregnant private clients, and this is a really good one to use instead. And also the Deep Blue rub is similar to China Gel, but it's more natural and it's safer to use generally. So I use this in my own practice a lot. I rub this on the bottom of my feet before I practice. It's good if you're doing any kind of physical exercise, if you're going for a run, or if you're just wanting to be a little bit warm, like at the moment in London, it's like snowing. So putting Deep Blue on and then putting my socks and Ugg boots on is like the best. So it's really warming, it's really calming. It's a great way to ground your students at the start of the practice and to really connect them into the body because it's very warming and opening for the muscles. And it helps to reduce inflammation and to soothe the muscles. So it's great for after the practice and very, very supportive oil. Anything to add, Mal?
Yeah, I'll just add really quickly. So it's sort of the bottom point here. I love also all of the stories that you're telling me, Amy, about the way that you're incorporating this into your work and into your clients. I think that's so exciting. And I don't know about you, but I definitely, in the scope of practicing medicine and teaching, I see how a lot of people kind of demonize their pain, right? Become the victim of discomforts that they're living with in their body and make it sort of something separate And I have found in all of my practices, Deep Blue, an incredible way to bring people back into relationship with the sensations of the body and to feel empowered that there's something that they can actually do to begin facilitating the healing of those. And again, I know that's, maybe more depth than we're going to work in a normal class, or just, like giving people the experience of having something. But it is, just one of those kind of magical layers that you can provide for people in one, bringing them back into their body, as you've already said, Amy. But I think it's also one of these oil blends that can assist us in pattern interruption of being the victim of the discomforts that we feel in the body, and bringing us back into relationship with what we're feeling so that we can begin to transcend it.
Yeah, amazing. All right, Balance is the next one. This is quite a new oil for me, actually. I only just started using this recently, and it is an amazing oil. It's quite a subtle oil. It's not as strong as some of the others. It is formulated, I think it's blended with, or maybe it was the roll-on that I had, but it's blended with coconut oil. And this has calming properties. It is got a blend of a few different oils, but one that I really love is frankincense. Frankincense is a very powerful oil in reducing inflammation and supporting a healthy immune response in the body. And actually, just doing a little bit of research around it, in Ayurvedic medicine, frankincense appears to offer benefits with arthritis and with digestion, and also with asthma, which I suffer from asthma. I use Balance. That's what I have been using before I go to bed, because I've been finding with the cold weather, it's a little bit triggered. So the Balance actually sorts out my breathing at night, which is really interesting. So a little story about one of my clients with this oil. One of my clients who is, she is bipolar, and she goes through ups and downs with that. So, and it coincides with different times of the month. As she's going through menopause. Menopause actually was one of the main things that triggered the bipolar. And so on certain times of the month, she is very sensitive to anything with her senses. So the smell, the sounds, even the light, like she can't handle like a bright light. And so it was one of these days, and she was very, very sensitive. And I gave her an oil, and it completely like set her off. It was too strong for her. And it took her into this kind of like, it just overloaded her basically. And so if this ever happens where you give someone an oil and it's not good for them, one thing that you can do is just put some coconut oil on, and whatever you do, don't put water on there because it's not gonna get rid of it. So you put coconut oil on to get rid of it. And then I gave her the Balance, and straight away I put it in her hands, got her to smell it, and within a few moments she was back to balance, which was amazing. And it was a bit of an experiment, like a trust of like putting a little bit of faith in this oil. But I knew that this oil had chamomile in it, which is really calming, and it was a more subtle oil. And now this is the only oil I use with her. But it's really interesting to see this happen in front of your eyes, you know, like that, the power of the oils, and how like this particular oil is very grounding. It's said also to be great for pain relief. That's the blue chamomile is great for pain relief and anxiety relief. And also indigestion. This one, Balance, if you've got a bit of indigestion, rubbing it on your belly is really great, potentially if you've overindulged over any time, but particularly Christmas. I overindulged a little bit last night. I was like, balance this morning. So yeah, I mean, these are a really good place to start. I absolutely love these 3 oils. Anything else to say about that one, Miles?
No, I don't have, so balance ironically is not one that I use a lot. So, and I think it's not, I think it's really nice for people to hear, because we engage with the oils differently. The populations we work with are slightly different. I love that story, Amy. I just think it's such a powerful and poignant story on a couple different levels. I mean, one, yes, the power of oil, but like two, like building trust and really being aware and growing your knowledge of the oils to enable you to interact with the situation the way that you did. And I think that this is part of the fun of incorporating this into our yoga teaching journey. Is it does take a little bit of trial and error sometimes, and it is a learning journey, but I feel like none of us would be yoga teachers if we didn't love the learning journey. And learning, right, and experimenting with all of the ways that we can positively impact our students, which could be different for different students, and different, definitely on different days. And Amy has presented 3 oils. Like I said, there are over 100 oils we could possibly choose from. And so if that feels exciting to you, to know that there are so many tools. Blue tansy is also an element in deep blue, which is why deep blue is also such a good anti-inflammatory. So you start to gain a working knowledge of the plants. And for me, it was incredibly empowering. For Amy, I know it has been incredibly empowering. And so now we're just sharing in the journey together. So before yoga, after yoga, right? I love that. Maybe you've seen that before. So this is my variation of before essential oils, after essential oils, because I love visuals. And don't we all want to be this woman? Yes. And so as we bring this to a close, because I know we're a little bit over time, I want to be conscientious of everyone's time. And I also just want to have a moment to field if there are any burning questions. And otherwise, again, just to reiterate, please, whoever invited you to this webinar, reach out to them, connect with them, ask your questions, make an appointment for a free consultation to get a little more depth in how you could enter into a conversation with essential oils. That's what we are passionate about doing. And that's what we're here to help you to do. So 3 ways that you can partner with Amy, or whoever it is that may have introduced you to this webinar. You can become a customer. Obviously, we can help you to open an account with doTERRA so that you have access to begin to experiment with these amazing plant medicines, these amazing tools. You can also let us coach you to learn how to teach and share. So empowering your students and communities the way that perhaps one of us will be able to facilitate for you. And then the third way, eventually, if you are interested in creating or growing your wellness business, we can down the line talk to you about business opportunities. Amy and I, before this webinar, were already dreaming about the next webinar we would do. And so I think in the winter time, we will be offering some workshops on wellness business building and some coaching around that. So stay tuned. I'm really excited. And that's it for the PowerPoint. So let's bring us home. So that we can, I think we've managed everything in the chat. So Ames, unless you have something else, we can open the floor to questions really quickly, and then just be kind of mindful of everyone's Sunday evening. So Charlotte's question in the chat: what about pregnant students or group pregnancy classes? would you use oils? So the first thing I would say, Charlotte, and Ames chime in, but you definitely heard Amy say consent is everything. So we don't want to put anything or push anything on our students that they're not willing to do. So I would say around pregnancy, when you're working with a pure essential oil, yeah, thanks, Lindsay. Thanks so much for joining us. When you're working with the pure oils, there's very little to be concerned about because they're pure oils. Now, around pregnancy, there are a few things like peppermint is great during pregnancy, but peppermint has been shown to limit breast milk during breastfeeding. So there are like a couple of small considerations that if this is the population you're working with, you can reach out to Amy and I also to guide you with educational resources and also education. But I would say, like, to your question, can you use it? I would highly encourage it. I just had a student who was in one of the teacher trainings that I used to do in Tuscany. She's taken a few of my online courses. She just had her first baby. She used the oils throughout her pregnancy, and she did one of my 5-element courses. So she was really tapping into the wisdom of the 5 elements of traditional Chinese medicine and using the oils to support that, and went through her whole labor using the essential oils to support the energetics of the like she was just using it all. And I actually started crying when I got the message from her that her baby had been born because the oils helped so much for her to stay in her body, to stay in her experience, and also to have a really easy and safe tool to assist her with all of the, whether it's morning sickness or pain or sciatic or, all of these things. So it's super exciting to have these tools. Just make sure that you have enough education that you can educate your students and offer it to them in an educated way so that they can wrap their heads around what it is that you're offering them. Would you add anything to that, Ames?
No, I think that's great. I mean, I think, yeah, with pregnancy, it's like do your research first about what oils are suitable. There's lots of studies out there. There's specifically a few people that specialize in offering oils for pregnant women and have like some lists online and things like that. But there are definitely some that you want to avoid. So it's just making sure that you are educated.
Yeah. And that, it's also, I feel like I've also alluded to this throughout the webinar, and Charlotte, actually, this because you were, you were in a training with us is that, one of the reasons I'm so in love with this company and part of that aspect of unity is that, yes, you definitely do your research, but we have, I have so many experts on my team. Amy, also as she's building her community in England is coming in contact with experts, and we thrive on helping each other. And so, it's one thing to ask Dr. Google, but we all know how confusing that can be. And so once you enter into this conversation and into our doTERRA community, you then get really special and intimate access to so many people who are specializing in different areas and have really intimate working knowledge about the oils in relationship to specific populations and specific diseases, specific things. And so for me, that feels really good, because I would love to be an expert in the things I'm an expert in, but I don't want to be an expert in everything. So nice to know we can reach for one another and tap into each other's wisdom. Yeah. So Fem, I'm just reading your daughter, swollen eyes, basic essential oils, what's the best to take her to calm the eyes down? Yeah, so lavender is actually an antihistamine. So she, as weird as it's gonna sound, I know Amy talked about the balance with digestion, which is absolutely true. We also have another blend called Digessen. So when someone is having that like cold, flu, sinusy, the 2 or 3 like basic immune sickness oils that I always reach for are oregano And if any of you have interacted with oregano, it is a hot oil. It is disgusting. It burns your mouth. If you get it where you don't want it, it's very, very bad. And like Amy said, don't put water on it, put oil on it, because the water pushes essential oils deeper into the skin. But I have maintained taking a drop of oregano twice a day throughout the entire pandemic, as a way to support my immune system. On Guard, the On Guard blend, also like prophylactically, so as something like as a daily supplement oil for the immune system, but also when you're sick. Breathe, as we've mentioned a lot of times, for the symptoms that you're saying, Fem. And then lavender is a natural antihistamine, so that can be taken internally. And it also can be diluted and rubbed into the temples and the sinuses. And what I might add to that is, interestingly, DigestZen is one of our powerhouse digestive blends. And it has also been shown, when applied topically to the sinuses during sinusitis, to help get some of the mucus to break up. So I have used that with a few clients, and it has actually worked in conjunction with Breathe really, really well. You're welcome. Yeah. Any other?
Alice.
Awesome. Yeah, Charlotte, totally.
No, sorry, I'm a bit nasally and sinusy at the moment. I sound a bit grim. I wanted to
You have
ask.
some ideas for that now.
Yeah, I'm really not doing very well. I wanted to ask about like pranayama and breath work. Like, I feel like there's a lot of, I love essential oils, but there tends to be that sometimes, I know you were saying like to help open up the chest and take a little bit. If you were doing a pranayama class, will that inhibit breath? Does that make sense? Will that affect the breath work? Does that make sense? Because I don't want to name names, but I just have other teachers that have kind of been like, oh no, you can't have any smelly stuff, sort of, I don't know. But I wanted to clarify. I personally disagree, but I don't know where you stand on that.
Do you want to take that, Ames, or you want me to?
You can.
Okay. Yeah. So Alice, we just want to, definitely we know in the realm of teaching yoga that everyone has their own opinion about everything.
Yeah.
So, I feel like part of being a really good teacher these days is keeping that mind of discerning, right? Of really keeping ourselves oriented in time, place, intention, all of this, right? So I am going to say yes and no. If you're doing a breathwork class, but you're diffusing sandalwood and vetiver, which are like deeply grounding and rooting oils, that could potentially inhibit your students' ability to tap into, right, the respiratory, like depending on. And so we just want to like always bring ourselves back to what is the question, what am I trying to do, and which oil will facilitate my ability to do that well. And so in a pranayama class, something like Breathe is going to be amazing, because how many students do you have that like are shallow breathing, right? Like don't even know that they're breathing most of the time. And so I have my Breathe right here, of course, because it's always next to me. So sometimes when I'm leading pranayama, what I do is I offer people like a drop or two in their hands. So instead of diffusing environmentally, like making it so big, right? Those that want to partake, we call these essential oil bombs. You rub your palms together and you have them take a few deep breaths. So they're interacting with the oil. You're facilitating the opening of the breathing mechanism. You're not overwhelming the class with, the essential oil information, but you're using it to enhance what you're teaching. So for me, it's really about getting to know the oils. And this is something that Amy is a magnificent guide for. And because we work together, you can tap into both of our wisdoms eventually if you start integrating this. But you want to think about what you're doing And then you want to choose the most universally acceptable oil to facilitate that. And just by doing those 2 simple steps, you're going to benefit your students so, so much.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, it smells so, I wish I could like have you smell like, for those of you who don't have oils in front of you, I really want to share my palms with you. All right. So gang, I think we probably have to close.
There's one more question. Oh, it is Fem. Yeah. Do you want to take yourself off mute or?
What is the difference between what
No,
you
Thank you, Aim, for asking. I just wanted to know, because I know already doTERRA and I'm working a little bit, but I really want to dive more into it. What is exactly the difference of both your positions right now, and the possibilities we have, like just sign up and have and order oils or whatever? So
yeah, amazing. So that's what that last slide was. So let me just talk you through it. And it's such a beautiful way to kind of close and end the call. So the ways that you can, partner with us or get more deeply involved with doTERRA and also your journey with essential oils is whoever invited you to this call, reach out. So Fem, that probably would be me. Because we've journeyed a lot in this life already together, which is super cool. And we'll do, you and I, we've had so many conversations about the oils. I'm not even sure that it's necessary for us to do a consult, but let me give the sort of overview so everyone is familiar. What would happen, gang, is that you're going to reach out to either of us, whoever it was that invited you to this call, and set up a free 20-minute consultation. During that consultation, what we're going to do is try to help you identify where the best entry point for you is with the oils, meaning we're just going to take you through a few questions and listen to your needs and help you identify what will be most useful for you as first steps in your essential oil journey. And that is, maybe identifying what you're wanting to do with your personal practice or your personal like spiritual development. And we're going to get the right oils into your hands to facilitate that first step. And what that looks like is opening a wholesale account under one of us. And what that means is that you're going to open a wholesale account, which is going to give you a 25% discount, and open that account for 1 year. It is renewable each year it's $25 in the US. I think it's a little bit like 18 pounds in the UK. And when you renew your wholesale account, you also get a free peppermint oil from doTERRA. So they really make it easy to be a member and be engaged. But what's most exciting is that whoever enrolls you in doTERRA becomes your first and most intimate education source, which means what will happen if Amy or I helps any of you to open an account is that we will then take you through a step-by-step educational process for every oil or product that you make in your first order. And then actually continuously, I work with my clients continuously when they're ordering new things or they have new necessities, they're reaching out to me, I give them guidance, and then we work together to make sure, because for us, the most important thing is not to get essential oils in your hands. That's easy. The most important thing to us is that 1, you know how to use them. 2, they are truly benefiting your life. And 3, that naturally translates into your ability to, start educating and sharing naturally with people. It is not necessarily, and I'm sorry, Amy, if you wouldn't choose this language, it is not necessary to become a sharer or to build a business. But for most of us that feel passionate about helping people, they're kind of become natural. Like as you get deeper into your own investigations, like, I want to tell everyone about this. It's so cool. It's so amazing. And you want to empower other people. So the first step is just to allow one of us to help you open your account, to allow us to really teach and support you in using your oils in everyday life and to show you how they can be amazing facilitating tools also in your teaching. And then from there, sky's the limit. Does that help? And anything you want to add to that, Ames?
I think that it just made me think of my Jivamukti training, actually, because when Sharon Gannon, who created Jivamukti Yoga, she was giving a talk on like veganism, and she was saying, you know, sharing, wanting people to, you know, make a change in their lives, or oh yeah, she's gone. Or yeah, just showing people that this is going to support the earth and their lives, is the way to go about that, is not to tell them that this is the right way to go. It's about implementing it into your own life and then shining your light. And when they ask you, why are you looking so bright and healthy and happy, you can tell them. And that is amazing, because it's like, it just naturally happens that you just want to share why when they ask you. Or, you know, I mean, it's quite an organic thing as yoga teachers, that we are, you know, that we take on these tools, and it just really enriches the way that we're supporting our students. And I think that's what I love about it the most.
Yeah, so beautifully said, Ames. And I know you and I share this, especially when we're working on teacher trainings together, right? Like, just walk the walk, and you become the nectar for everyone and everything. And so that's really our role, if you're wanting to, you know, to engage in this particular process with us, is we're just going to support you in learning how to walk the walk really well and really naturally and really organically. And from there, you know, the joy and the sharing and the ability to facilitate comes so supernaturally. So it's a great place to end, I think. So let's go into the rest of our day and entering into this new week together. Again, I love this gathering of like minds and hearts that are already so oriented around giving and sharing and facilitating well-being and happiness in the world. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us in person with your videos on. And oh, it's just beautiful to see your faces. Thank you so much, as always, Amy. I love you. I know that's, you know, probably like not
Well,
something
thank you so much.
webinar, but like I feel so much joy walking this path with you. And gang, reach out to us with your questions, your concerns, to make a consultation, etc. We're here, and we're really excited to share more of this journey with you. So here we go into a new week, walking the walk as best we can. See you soon, everybody.
Thanks, Molly. Thanks, ladies.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.